Wait. The Mexicans in Chicago tried to kill Nip.
We see Rampart push him in the back. Nipsey tour bus had a room on the back of it. He pushed him in the back of the room, closed the door. These motherfuckers climbing on the bus, like getting on the bus driver scared, and like, damn.
The level of lawlessness, ruthlessness that these cartel and gang members displayed are stunning.
They were told that if you call law enforcement, what we're doing to you now will only get worse. We'll vandalize your business, we'll burn your business, we will beat your employees, we will kill you and your employees.
I believe in something that's serious as gangbanging, where life and death is involved, where people got decades of death. Bro, I can't count how many of my homeboys I buried and went to funerals. I ain't saying this on no badge of honor. I'm just saying that's how serious the thing has become.
We all know Nipsey Hussle was tragically gunned down by Eric Holder, but before that, something even crazier almost took his life. Apparently, Nipsey had a run-in with one of the most dangerous and ruthless organizations out there, the Cartels. Word is there was some serious bad blood that put Nipsey in their crosshairs.
6 Mexicans with Crenshaw shirts on came behind. Matter of fact, at the concert, Sean, it was 100 Mexicans with colorful Crenshaw shirts on the south side of Chicago.
Now, everyone knows that messing with the cartel is like signing your own death warrant. Their reputation says it all. The violence, the K-ings, and all the chaos they bring. And that's exactly what happened when they set their sights on Nipsey. There were chases, fights, shootings, and pure madness that could have ended Nipsey's life long before Eric Holder ever came into the picture.
And the Crenshaw, we see them, they run into the bus, throw the car in reverse, like what? Man, by the time I'm in reverse now, I'm about to turn the car to get back to alley. The lights is on everybody. It's 6 motherfuckers.
But what exactly did Nipsey do to have a whole cartel coming after him? Let's break it down. Back in 2023, big folks shared a jaw-dropping story about how the cartels once tried to take Nipsey Hussle out. According to him, it all went down because some rolling 60s Crips had robbed the cartel, stealing around 300 keys of H.
He dead now, so I can say it. The 60s or whatever, they had robbed the motherfucking cartel for like 300 keys of And they know he traveling and this and that, so he was an easy target. They was gonna him to hurt the 60s type. You see what I'm saying?
That theft set off a chain of events that could have cost Nipsey his life, even though he wasn't involved in the robbery at all. Nipsey was just touring and making moves in his early career. But the cartels targeted him simply because of his association with the rolling 60s. They figured going after Nipsey would send a painful message to the gang.
But Nip, they had nothing to do with that or nothing. Like he was telling me, he's like, I don't got nothing to do with that, but the homies back home, they did shit. So it's like the Mexicans was at war with any from around there. They caught you with a white t-shirt on, they was type in LA.
Big folks explained that the ambush happened while Nipsey was on tour. At one of his concerts, about 100 men showed up wearing colorful Crenshaw shirts, Nipsey's own merch. At first, nobody thought much of it. They blended in with the fans, making it look like they were there to support Nipsey.
6 Mexicans with Crenshaw shirts on came behind. Matter of fact, at the concert, Sean, it was 100 Mexicans with colorful Crenshaw shirts on the south side of Chicago.
But once the concert ended and Nipsey and his team got back on the tour bus, things took a dark turn. Out of nowhere, the men in the Crenshaw shirts started rushing toward the bus. They weren't fans, they were cartel members. Nipsey's team quickly tried to reverse the bus to get away, but it was too late. Around 6 of the men managed to catch up and started climbing onto the bus. Now, big folks didn't hold back when he described what went down. He said Nipsey's security, who had been acting tough and claiming nothing would happen, was caught off guard. Despite being a big guy, the security guard got dragged off the bus and beaten down by the 6 cartel members. Big folks even joked about how these men were smaller than the security guard, but they completely overpowered him.
It's 6 Mexicans, little, they not big and no big goons, but like I say, like a Dewberry standing there trying to talk tough to him. Man, the littlest Mexican, I swear to Jesus Christ, straight out on some Chicago, bah, little pack his out, he fall out. Bam, he had on big glasses, and it's ice outside.
Meanwhile, Nipsey's team sprang into action. One of the men on the bus realized the situation was spiraling out of control, so he grabbed Nipsey and locked him in a back room on the bus to keep him safe. Outside, things were pure chaos. The cartel members were climbing all over the bus, trying to get to Nipsey.
We see Rampart push him in the back. Nipsey tour bus had a room on the back of it. He pushed him in the back of the room, closed the door. These motherfuckers climbing on the bus, like getting on the bus driver scared, and Like, damn.
But Nipsey's team wasn't going down without a fight. Big folks said they were strapped and ready. They started spraying bullets, taking down some of the attackers in the process. Somehow, they managed to hold off the cartel members long enough to get the bus moving again. They sped away, escaping what could have been a deadly ambush. It's insane how all this went down, but it really shows just how ruthless and powerful the cartels can be, especially when someone crosses them. They don't play around, and their influence is only growing, especially in LA, where they've started embedding themselves more deeply into the local gang scene. The cartel's reputation for brutality isn't just about what they do themselves, it's also about how they can control others. Take this for example. There was a massive bust recently that exposed how deeply intertwined the Mexican mafia is with LA's street gangs. Apparently, high-ranking Mexican mafia members in prison were calling the shots, ordering gang members on the outside to carry out violent crimes like murder, arson, and extortion.
Big crime bust. Law enforcement announces dozens of arrests involving Mexican mafia prison inmates who directed gang members on the outside to commit violent crime.
It was all part of something called Operation Los Impuestos, a collaborative effort between local and federal authorities. This operation led to the arrest of 39 dangerous criminals, making it one of the biggest crackdowns in San Diego history.
The level of lawlessness, ruthlessness that these cartel and gang members displayed are stunning.
What's wild is how organized these groups are. You've got shot callers behind bars, coordinating directly with the cartels and giving orders to multiple gangs. They decide who gets taken out, what businesses to target, and basically run things from their prison cells.
And essentially, they are shot callers that coordinate with Mexican cartels, and they also then give essentially orders to our street gangs.
And it's not just violence. The cartel's drug trade is another way they're solidifying their grip on the streets. Back in November 2024, there was another massive bust that targeted street gangs in LA County connected to the cartels. This investigation started all the way back in 2022, when narcotics detectives and deputies from the Compton Sheriff's Station executed a search warrant at a house on South Willow Avenue. What they found was mind-blowing. More than 275,000 fentanyl pills, 24 pounds of coke, and nearly 9 pounds of To top it off, they discovered a stockpile of firearms and hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. It was like a mini cartel operation right in the middle of LA. 2 people were arrested right away, but the investigation didn't stop there. Authorities tracked the operation for 2 years, leading to the arrest of 50 people involved in the drug trade. This wasn't just about selling drugs either. These guys were trafficking fentanyl near an elementary school, putting kids at risk, and they were hit with charges ranging from narcotics trafficking to weapons violations and even endangerment of young ones. The sheriff's department made it clear, if convicted, many of these individuals are looking at serious time. We're talking minimum sentences of 10 years in federal prison, with some facing the possibility of life behind bars. According to reports, the partnerships between cartels and street gangs are a win-win for both sides, and that's what makes them so dangerous. The cartels can move and sell drugs across the US without ever having to set foot on American soil, keeping themselves out of direct danger while still running the show. On the flip side, the street gangs get to skip dealing with mid-level suppliers and take home a bigger slice of the profits. This setup gives both sides what they want and makes their alliance even stronger. What's really interesting, though, is how this shows the shift in how organized crime operates in North America. It's no longer about massive Mexican cartels running everything from the top down, which was the norm for years. Recent high-profile arrests and killings of cartel leaders have shaken things up, leading to a new era where smaller, independent groups work together in a sort of network. It's like a spider web of criminal activity. Each group has its own role, and they all depend on one another to keep the whole operation going. If you look at Colombia, something similar happened there with their cartels. The government went hard with a decapitation strategy, targeting and taking down the big cartel bosses. While it worked in some ways, it also caused these massive organizations to splinter into smaller groups, creating a messier situation. The same thing seems to be happening here, and whether it'll lead to more cooperation between groups or outright chaos with more bloodshed remains to be seen. It's likely going to be a mix of both, as alliances shift and everyone tries to grab more power. The real nightmare, though, is what this means for law enforcement. When you've got entrenched partnerships between cartels and street gangs, it becomes almost impossible to make any real progress. Even if you take down one side of the equation, the other can just find a new partner and keep things moving. What's even crazier is how indiscriminate the cartels are when choosing who they work with. You'd think they'd stick with gangs that have cultural ties, like Hispanic street gangs, but that's not the case at all. These guys will work with anyone who gets the job done. They've partnered with groups like the Aryan Brotherhood, an openly white supremacist gang, as well as African-American gangs like the Bloods and the Crips, even though those two are sworn enemies. This whole situation really highlights how dangerous the cartels are. Sure, they'll do business with these gangs, but the second anyone crosses them, it's game over. They don't think twice about wiping someone out if it means protecting their interests. That's why it was so reckless for the Rolling 60s to steal from them. Taking 300 keys of H? That's not just stealing, that's a death sentence. And Nipsey Hussle almost paid the price for something he wasn't even involved in, simply because he was associated with the Rolling 60s. But what makes it even more tragic is that Nipsey was all about trying to break this cycle. Even though Nipsey proudly repped the Rolling 60s, he wasn't blind to the madness that comes with being in a gang. He often spoke about the senseless violence that happens in that world, like how someone could walk into a different neighborhood, spot someone who dresses like them, moves like them, and has the same vibe, and instead of seeing a reflection of themselves, they see a threat. That person gets labeled a gangbanger, and oft for absolutely no reason other than being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
When you're looking for your so-called enemy, you driving through a different hood, down the street. You know, it's an invisible line. You cross this street, now you in another hood. And you hunting. When you see somebody that's dressed like you dress, and got the walk like you got, and got the body language like you, you're gonna say, there you go, get him. And that's deep.
Nipsey broke it down in a way that made you really stop and think about how deep that is. He explained that when you're caught up in the gang life, you don't even question it. You're too busy playing the role, so you don't realize that you're essentially attacking a version of yourself. That's how twisted the cycle is. But as Nipsey matured and started seeing the world differently, he couldn't ignore how flawed that mindset was. He admitted he had to get real with himself and confront these harsh truths. Just the act of picking out a target, deciding who's a threat, and pulling the trigger. It's a process that reflects so much about the brokenness of the culture.
In gangbanging culture, you don't think that deep. You just think of these niggas doing shot the hood up. We about to go back through there and return the favor. I had to be honest with myself. I started being honest and thinking about it like, you know, just the selection process, the way that you select who your target is gonna be. That's something to think about.
Nipsey didn't want to abandon gangs, though. He knew firsthand how deep the roots of that life go, especially for young kids growing up in environments like his. He understood why so many people turn to gangs. They're looking for a sense of belonging, protection, and purpose. Instead of walking away, he wanted to transform that system from the inside out. Nipsey dreamed of changing gang culture altogether, turning it into something that could uplift communities instead of tearing them apart. He didn't shy away from encouraging peace, even between rival gangs like the Bloods and the Crips. He famously worked with rappers affiliated with the Bloods to send a message that peace was possible. But tragically, Nipsey's life was cut short by the same gang culture he was trying so hard to change. And the most heartbreaking part was that he wasn't even offed by a rival gang member or someone from the ops. It was someone from his own set, the Rolling 60s Crips, who took him out. Nipsey's death wasn't just another tragedy. It was like a massive earthquake that shook everything and everyone it touched. The music industry lost a real one. His community was shattered, and fans around the world were left heartbroken. But what makes this story even more intense is what's happened since then, especially with Eric Holder, the guy responsible for taking Nipsey's life. Now, we all know Nipsey was about peace. He preached unity and wanted to bring an end to the endless cycle of violence that came with gang culture. But after he was offed, all that peace talk went out the window, at least for a while. Holder became public enemy number one, and the streets didn't wait around for the courts to handle him. Sure, Holder eventually got slapped with a massive 60-year prison sentence, which seems like justice on paper, right? But the punishment started way before a judge officially handed it down. The streets have their own rules, and Holder became a walking target the second Nipsey was gone. Rumors started swirling about heavy retaliation aimed not just at him but at his family too. Recently, a woman from LA's Rolling 60s neighborhood, Nipsey's stomping grounds, spilled some serious tea in a viral video. She claimed that Holder's family was essentially wiped out as revenge for Nipsey's murder. According to her, Holder made a colossal mistake when he offed someone as respected and loved as Nipsey, forgetting that his own family would be vulnerable.
Why would you go kill somebody like Nipsey and then leave your mama and them on the block in the 60s? You supposed to get them up out of there before you even went to scope the scenery.
The streets don't forget. And in this case, they made sure the consequences were felt far and wide. And it doesn't stop there. The backlash against Holder isn't just about his family. There's even talk that anyone who tries to visit him in prison or stay connected to him in any way could be putting themselves in danger. Then there's Holder's time behind bars, which has been far from smooth. Some people might have assumed his gang ties would keep him safe, but nope, it's been the exact opposite. In 2022, he got jumped by 2 inmates, and let's just say they didn't hold back. This wasn't some little fight, it was brutal. They went in on him with a razor, slashing him up and leaving him unconscious. The injuries were bad enough that he needed 3 staples in his head, and he was walking around with his face bruised up.
Rapper Nipsey Hussle's alleged was attacked on his way to court. He was attacked by 2 people while in a holding cell. Holder needed 3 staples after being cut with what's believed to be a razor. He also may have lost consciousness.
Here's the wild part. Holder didn't even see it coming. He was just sitting in a holding cell with 13 other inmates, probably minding his business, when out of nowhere he got ambushed. His attackers didn't say a word. They just went straight for him. Nobody knows the exact reason. But let's be real. Nipsey's name carries weight everywhere, and it's hard to imagine it wasn't related to what he did. What's even crazier is that Holder showed up to court the very next day, looking all kinds of messed up, head stapled, face bruised, the whole 9 yards. It's hard to feel any sympathy for the guy though, considering the cold-blooded way he took Nipsey's life. But it's wild to see just how much his decision has cost him and everyone around him. Nipsey wasn't just another rapper. He was a symbol, a leader, and a force for change. Even the LAPD respected him for the work he did to bridge the gap between the streets and law enforcement. Even President Obama himself took a moment to honor Nipsey Hussle's legacy, underscoring just how impactful Nipsey was, not just in his community but on a global scale. His death was so significant that it brought rival gangs together to discuss peace. Nipsey's presence and message were powerful enough to make people rethink decades of street beef and violence. Eric Holder may have pulled the trigger, but he couldn't off what Nipsey represented. Nipsey's legacy is untouchable, and it's going to live on forever. People won't let his name fade away, and they definitely won't let Holder forget the weight of what he did. Former inmates like Bravo, the bag chaser, have even spoken about how brutal life has been for Holder behind bars. One incident during a prison transfer reportedly left him shaken. Another reminder that Nipsey's memory continues to cast a long shadow. While some believe Holder is getting exactly what he deserves, others wonder if his life is basically on a ticking clock. Not because of parole or legal issues, but because revenge and street justice seem to be colliding in ways no one can fully control. When Eric Holder offed Nipsey, it wasn't just another crime. It was like lighting a match in a room full of gasoline. The rumors of retaliation started almost immediately, and it's been clear ever since that this wasn't going to end well for him or anyone close to him.